Good morning everyone, welcome back to the class. As you remember that last term we started the topic simple pendulum in our first chapter, and we have seen what is a simple pendulum, and we have seen some terms related to it, that what is an oscillation. We have learned what is time period of a simple pendulum. We have learned what is a frequency. We have learned about the amplitude of the oscillations. These many things we have learned. Also we have discussed that the idea here, what we are studying, is that we want to calculate the time period of the simple pendulum, and we did draw one result. We have seen that the time period of simple pendulum is directly proportional to the effective length of the simple pendulum. If I remind you all once again what is effective length. So we have learned that when we take a rigid support and we attach a string or any thread to it, and here is our bob. So the length of the thread plus the radius, this total length of the thread plus the radius of the bob is known as the effective length. If I show you all, this total will be your effective length. So T is directly proportional to root of L. Now we can write this thing. If I bring this square root to this side, this will become simply T square directly proportional to L, isn't it? Both the expression 1 and expression 2, both the expressions are nothing but the same. If you write, whether you say T is directly proportional to root L or you say T square is directly proportional to L, both the expressions are same. Okay, now if we take this information, that is T square directly proportional to L, which means that the time period of simple pendulum depends upon L, that is the effective length. That means if there is any variation in length, like if I tell you to read this mathematical statement, it simply means that whenever L changes, T will also change. So that's how we see that time depends on L. So now next what we are going to do is we are going to see the variation of time period with length, and we are going to sketch it. That means we are going to make a graph and we are going to see. Okay, so let's write it here, that we want to see how time varies with the effective length, and for that we are going to draw a graph of T square, because we are having two quantities. And if you remember in your class 8 or in the previous classes, if we want to draw a graph, we always have taken two axes, that is one x-axis and one y-axis. And if you remember that on one axis we represent something, on y-axis we represent something, and according to that we plot some points and then we draw the graph. That is the same thing we are going to do here. Okay, that means we are having two quantities here. We have one time, that is actually the square of time, and one we have the effective length. So to draw the graph, we are going to take two axes, two perpendicular axes, x-axis and y-axis. Okay, and now we are actually drawing the graph of T square versus L. Okay, so we are going to take T square on y-axis and we are going to take effective length on x-axis. And if you can recall that whenever we are drawing the graph or whenever we make a graph, we should have some points. So here we are not having any numerical value, so let's take a general value. Let's say we are taking 1 point here on the x-axis. On x-axis what are we representing? Effective length. Let's say first point is L1, and let's say one more point we are taking, and that is L2. Okay, and let's take here one point we are taking T1. Not only T1, but on y-axis we are taking the square of time. So we will be taking a point T1 square. Could be anything, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, could be anything. And then second point we are taking T2 square. Are you clear? Whenever we have to draw the graph, we have to take points. So that's how we have taken points on x-axis and y-axis. These are our points, general points. We don't have any numerical value. So since on x-axis we are representing the effective length, and that's how we have taken 2 points in terms of length, effective length in fact, L1 and L2. On y-axis we again have taken 2 points, but in terms of time square, as on y-axis we are representing T square. So we have T1 square and T2 square. Let's say when our time is t1 square, let's say the effective length will be L1. That is, for L1 the time will be t1 square. So for L1 the time will be t1 square. So here goes, or here comes our first point, isn't it? Now if we take, let us say we change the value of effective length, we change the length of the string. So let's say it becomes L2. I hope you are getting what is L1 and what is L1. L1 could be anything. If you are taking the length of the thread or the simple pendulum is 10 centimeter. So L1 could be 10. Now we have changed it to 20. So L2 will become 20. It's just that. Okay, now when we are changing L2, since time depends on the length, it will also change. Say it is now becoming T2 square. That means when the length is L2, the time is now T2 square. So when the length is L2, the time is T2 square. So here comes our second point. To draw a line or a graph, we at least need 2 points, and that's why we have taken 2 points. So when we make them to meet, this will give you our graph. You see, this is our graph of t square versus L, which is a straight line, okay, because t square is directly proportional to L, and that's how we draw the graph. So if I give you the fair thing, so it should look like this. Okay, this is one point and this is second point. This is how the graph of T2 square. Okay, now you see there are questions in your exam question paper that they will be asking, or they'll ask you that draw the graph of t square versus L, or give the idea of the graph t square versus L. So that's how you draw the graph. Is it clear? Now since we have drawn the graph, and next our idea is to calculate the time period basically. So we are going to use the graph and calculate the time period. But before we do that, let us learn something about the slope of a graph. Okay, so let's say here is some graph and we are going to learn slope of the graph. Let's say here it is x-axis and it is y-axis. Okay, on x-axis let us take a point. This is completely different thing. First let us learn what is a slope and then we'll apply this to our topic. Now first point, let us say some point is here. It could be 2, 4, 5, 6. So let's say we are calling it a general point. Let's say it is x1. We are taking another point x2. Okay, on y-axis let's take one point y1, another point y2. It is clear here. Now you see, for x1 the value of y is y1. So if I tell you, actually I have drawn it wrong. Let's say this is the value x1 and this is y1. So this point should be y1. This is the point where x is x1 and y is y1. I hope you all are aware how to read a graph. Here it is x1 and here it is y1. You must have read these things in your class 8 where you were drawing the where you were learning to draw the graph of a given line. If I give you one example, there was a question to draw the graph of the line y is equals to 3x, and that's how we took the points and we have drawn, if you can recall. Now if I take, or if I talk about the second point here, so for x2, that is the value on x-axis x2 and corresponding to which the value on y is y2. Okay, so we are going to calculate the slope of the line. Actually slope is nothing but y2, since we are taking 2 points x1, x2, y1, y2. So its slope is y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1. This you should remember. How to calculate slope of a given graph or given line? Simple. That is y2, that is points we are taking on y-axis and points we are taking on x-axis. For your class, I think this is enough to know. When you go to class 10th and you will learn the chapter equation of the straight line, then you will simply learn how are we calculating this slope and what is inclination and all these things. So till here in your class, you just remember this, that slope will always be calculated by taking y2 minus y1, any 2 points on y-axis and 2 points on x-axis. Now if this thing is clear, I am not going to rub this. Let's see the slope of the graph which we have drawn, that is t square versus L. So if I show you the graph which we have drawn was like, here on y-axis we took t square, here on x-axis we took effective length, and we took one point here as L1, one point here as L2, and then we have drawn here, we took one point here as t1 square and one point here as t2 square. This was our graph, if you remember. And now we want to, according to this formula, we are going to use this formula to calculate the slope of this graph. So if I ask you to calculate the slope of this graph, and if I write it here, slope of the graph, it should be y2 minus y1. y2 means the axis y-axis. What is this? First entry will be your, of course, equals to y1, and this should be your y2. So what is y2? It is t2 square. What is y1? It is t1 square upon, what is x2 minus x1? This is x1, this is x2. What is x2? That is L2 minus, what is x1? That is L1. So using this formula we have kept the value y1, y2, x1, x2, and this is what our slope is coming. Is it clear? Okay, now we have calculated the slope. So here the slope, if I write it here, slope is coming, slope of what? Slope of the graph. Which graph? That is t square versus L, because I have told you how to read this, t square versus L. That means we are plotting a graph of t square versus L, where we are taking t square on y-axis and we are taking L on x-axis, and that's how we call it t square versus L. So we have plotted a graph of t square versus L. We have calculated the slope of the graph. Okay, what is the slope of the graph coming? It is coming t2 square minus t1 square upon L2 minus L1. Okay, this is the slope coming. Now, since I told you in the starting of the simple pendulum that these are the things, or these are the observations performed in laboratory or experimental values. So experimentally they have found that the slope is coming constant every time under the certain conditions. When they are calculating, the slope is coming constant. That means the value is not changing, and that's how the slope is constant. And if it is constant, there must be some value, fixed value. So actually when they calculated, it is coming equals to 4 pi square upon g. Is it clear? The slope is coming, or the slope came equals to 4 pi square upon g. So it is constant. If you see number 4 is constant. Pi square, pi has a fixed value 3.14 square, it is again constant. And then in the denominator we have small g. Small g, if you know, it is acceleration due to gravity. It is also having a fixed value. We generally take 9.8. So this is also, again, the whole thing is constant, and that's how they say that the slope was always coming constant, and that is the value of the slope. So if I write it again, the slope is coming, slope of what? Slope of t square versus L graph was experimentally coming 4 pi square upon g, where g is acceleration due to gravity. Okay, so now if I calculate the g is here, this is the whole thing in your LHS, g is here in denominator. If we bring the denominator here, it will come here in multiplication, and this thing can go to that side. So if I bring g here, so it will be g, and this all thing will go to that side. It's simple. It's like if x is equals to 4 pi square upon g. So how can we solve it? How can we write it? G can come here and we can write x here. So it's just that I'm taking this left hand side as one quantity. So this can g can come this side. This will be g equals 4 pi square upon, that is slope of t square versus L graph. Okay, so now you see that we were calculating the time period, and here we are having an expression for acceleration due to gravity. We can calculate acceleration due to gravity using the time period of simple pendulum. When we draw the graph of t square versus L, t square is the time period, you remember, L was the effective length of simple pendulum, so we can draw the graph. And when we draw the graph, can we calculate the slope? Yes, just now we have learned how, using that formula y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1. So we will calculate some slope, that value will come. And when we apply this formula, that is g is equals to 4 pi square upon slope, that will give you the idea, or that this value will give you the value of g. So that means using that simple pendulum at a place, we can calculate the value of acceleration due to gravity. We know that for a particular value, if we take whatever value, general value, we take 9.8 meter per second square. But we also know that the value of acceleration due to gravity changes as we move from equator to pole. This we know, and that's how we can take the pendulum at different places, and we can calculate the value of g by using this formula. Is it clear? I hope it is clear now. Okay, so this is one formula. Second formula is, or second thing is, that we were actually on the idea of time period. So what we saw is that time period depends upon the square root of effective length. Clear? That time period is directly proportional to the square root of length. As length increases, effective length increases, time period will also increase. Also, first point. Second point, experimentally it is seen, or it was seen, that the time period is inversely proportional to the square root of acceleration due to gravity. I made it clear in the last class what is directly proportional and what is inversely proportional. If I write x like this we read as x is directly proportional to y, which means if y increases, x will also increase. This is what we call directly proportional. But if I write x inversely proportional, you see it is in the denominator, then we call it inversely proportional. This means when y increases, x will decrease. So here in the first case, these two are inversely proportional, but here they are in first case it is directly proportional, but in second case these two are inversely proportional, meaning that if g increases, t will decrease. Yes, and that's how t depends on the effective length and it depends upon the gravity. Okay, now these two information we have collected during the experiment, and now if I combine the two information, see, we have gathered information that t is directly proportional to square root of length. Clear? It is also, I'm just combining the information, inversely proportional to the square root of the acceleration due to gravity, directly proportional to effective length, inversely proportional to gravity. Is it acceleration due to gravity? Is it clear? I have combined these two information which we know about time period. Now you see, here we have written an expression that t is directly proportional to root, whether you write root L upon root g, or you can write one time this square. Indices you have learned, you can write root of L upon g. We can write the whole part. Okay, so this is how we have written. Now you see, we want a proper mathematical expression for the time period, and here we are not getting this equal sign. Here we are having the dependency. It is telling you how time period depends or how time period varies. Here we are having the proportional sign. Now, when we remove the proportional sign and we apply the equal to sign or equal sign to write an equation, we always apply a constant of proportionality or a proportionality constant. If I write, I'm going to remove this proportional sign, I'm going to apply the equal sign, and whenever we remove this proportional sign, we always apply or we always use a constant of proportionality or proportionality constant. Here the constant which we are using, the value of that constant, or let us call it as k. constant, any constant we can use, and let's say the constant is k root L upon G. This you all should learn. This constant is known as proportionality constant. Proportionality constant or constant of proportionality. From now on, whenever we are going to use this proportional sign, and whenever we remove this proportional sign and makes it an equal, we always apply a constant. We have to apply a constant, and then further we will see what will be the value of this constant. Is it clear? Now next what we see, that experimentally it was found that the value of this constant, since it is constant, it will have some value. So value of this constant was coming 2 pi. 2 pi is a constant. So the value is coming under root L by G, 2 pi. And that's how we have derived, or we are having the mathematical formula for the time period of simple pendulum. It is simply T equals 2 pi under root L upon G. Is it clear, everyone? This is how we see the formula of time period. We have seen that the time period of simple pendulum, the expression is coming 2 pi under root L upon G. Okay, so this is the expression. Now if we talk about the factors on which the time period of a simple pendulum depends. First factor, the time period of simple pendulum depends on the effective length. It is quite clear from the mathematical expression that it does depend upon the effective length. In fact, the square root of effective length. Time period also depends upon the acceleration due to gravity. How? The time period is inversely proportional to the square root of acceleration due to gravity. So when we say whenever effective length changes, time period will change. Whenever acceleration due to gravity will change, time period will also change. So these two factors we know. Here to these two things, 2 pi is completely constant. Now third is whether we are going to see the amplitude of the oscillation. You know amplitude of the oscillation, that is denoted by small a, the maximum displacement covered either side of the pendulum, that is known as amplitude, if you can recall. So I am going to ask you, can you tell me that the time period of simple pendulum depends upon amplitude? If it is having a big amplitude or large amplitude or small amplitude, will the time period is going to be affected? No, because if you see the mathematical expression, there is no expression of time period. That means simply you can say that time period does not depend upon the amplitude of the oscillations. Whatever is going to be the amplitude, the time period will not depend on amplitude. It will depend on the effective length. It will depend on the acceleration due to gravity. Likewise, if I ask you one more factor, that what happen if we change the mass of the bob, whether we take a small bob or if we take a big bob, is it going, the mass of the bob is going to change or affect the time period? No, because again in the mathematical expression we are not getting any expression for the mass of the bob. That means it is independent of the mass of the bob. Whether you take a small stone hanging with that pendulum or you take a big elephant hanging with that pendulum, it will not affect the time period. Only what matters is the length of the pendulum and the gravity. So whether you hang yourself or whether you hang a small stone, the time period will not change. So these are the factors. Time period depends upon effective length. How it depends? Directly proportional to the square root of the length. It depends on the acceleration due to gravity, inversely proportional of the square root of gravity. Will it depend on mass of the bob? No. Will it depend on the amplitude of the bob? No. Okay. So these are the factors which do affect the time period and which do not affect the time period. Okay. So next is a small topic, that is seconds pendulum. Okay, now what is a seconds pendulum? Before I tell you what is a seconds pendulum, can you recall the definition of time period of a pendulum? Time period is that if you have a pendulum it will complete one oscillation. That, let's say it is the mean position, it will come here and it will go back to the mean position, it will go to that side and come back to the mean position. This is what one oscillation. And if you can recall the definition, time taken to complete one oscillation is known as its time period. यानी वो जितना भी time ले रहा होगा, that will be its time period. Here a pendulum, a simple pendulum having a time period of 2 seconds, like second pendulum is a pendulum or is a simple pendulum which has a time period we denote by capital T, a time period of 2 seconds. That means to complete one oscillation, what time it will take? It will take 2 seconds. Is it clear that a second pendulum is a pendulum which takes 2 seconds to complete one oscillation? Simple. So this is what. So sometimes the question asks ki what is a second pendulum? So second pendulum is a pendulum, or it is something, or it is a pendulum which takes 2 seconds to complete one oscillation. I think it is clear now. So this is the last topic. This was the last topic of our chapter. Now let's see some of the numericals. I have one question, and it is a very although a typical question, but it is asked many times, that calculate the length of a second pendulum. You have to calculate the length, so we have to calculate it. Okay, of a second pendulum at a place where the value of acceleration due to gravity is 9.8 meter per second square. So this is the thing they have. They are asking you to calculate this, they have given, and they are asking you to calculate the length of a second pendulum. So the moment they say second pendulum, we know what is the idea of second pendulum, that it is a pendulum which has time period of 2 seconds. Yes, we know. So this information we are going to write on our own, that we know that for a second pendulum the time period is 2 seconds. So this much information we have. So for time period we know one formula, that is T equals 2 pi under root L by G. So we know the value of T, we know that we have to calculate this L, and G is already given. So simply we'll put all the values and we'll calculate L. So if I write the value of T is 2, so it will be 2. Now it is 2 pi under root L, we have to calculate upon what is G. G we are given with the value of G is 9. Is it clear? Now you see this 2 and this 2 can be cancelled, as this 2 is in multiplication and it will come here in divide, so we can easily cancel them. Okay, so here it will be left hand side. What do we have? Now we have cancelled, so here it will be 1 pi under root L upon 9.8. Is it clear? Now since we have to calculate this L, rest of the things we have to take it to the other side. Since this pi is in multiplication, it will come here in division, so it will be 1 upon y, and right hand side we have L upon 9.8. Next, what to do? We square both sides. When we square both sides, whether you can square both sides or you can simply bring this square root to this side, it will give you the square. So it will give you 1 upon pi whole square, and that side it will simply become L upon 9.8. Is it clear? Now this will be 1 square will be 1, pi square will be pi square. We know the value of pi, that is 3.14, or you can write 22 by 7, your choice. I will be writing afterwards. So it is L upon 9.8. Now since we have to calculate this L, 9.8 being here in divide will come here to this side in multiplication. So it will simply be 9.8. Now you can put the value of pi, which is 3.14, and square of it equals to L. When you simplify this value, that is square, and then you divide, the value of this L, or effective length, will come approximately or equals, not approximately actually, it will come equals to 0.994 meter. You can say it will come approximately. This is approximately, it will approximately 0.994 is approximately equals to 1 meter. So this is a question, it will be asked many of the times that what is the effective length of a seconds pendulum. So, or sometimes the question may ask in optional question or 1 mark question that what is the approximate length or effective length of a seconds pendulum. So it will be approximately equal to 1 meter, or in proper numeral value you can write 0.994 meter. So this is what our one question.